welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a new study out there that seems and seeks, well, it's not really a study, I'll call it an observation or potentially an abstract that was posted on the side of the American Heart Association. We all know that eating less or having a lesser period of eating is associated with better health outcomes for diabetes, for heart disease, obesity, and any of those things that we have already come to know eating. But in an American Heart Association, an abstract or something that you posted is trying to disprove this notion that you would rather be better off to eat for a longer period in the day. I'm going to prove with what I call common sense science that tells me that that study is not to be false. To be specific, they compared eating between 8 hours in a day, eating for 8 hours in a day, to eating for between 12 to 16 hours in a day. And according to that observation, the people who ate for longer periods in the day, 12 to 16 hours, were better off in terms of heart health. They didn't die as much as the people who ate for only a window of 8 hours. So 8-hour window eaters died more than 16-hour window eaters, or people who ate, basically throughout the day were better than people who ate only a few hours a day, which we call intermittent fasting. And this is I don't want to say the word ridiculous, but essentially it is, because this turns over all the knowledge and studies and everything else that is out there, where even on this channel we promote and still are promoting that if you can, limit the hours of eating in the day, or shorten the eating window in terms of your hours that you eat, because it is with several health benefits or several health outcomes. Now, the reason why we don't want to even call this a study is that, first of all, it's not been peer reviewed. It is not a rigorous study. It is a data, some data that was analyzed between, I think, the year of 2003 to 2018. And the results that they gleaned from this observation were self-reported. In other words, the people gave the information. So there was no real evidence that the information that is coming out is really good enough to dwell on. This is not something that we should go by. So if you are doing or using intermittent fasting for several health reasons, I would encourage you to do the same. What if the people who reported eating only 8 hours a day did so because they are in a very busy lifestyle? For example, some executives who are very stressed, living a very busy lifestyle, so they did not make those choices to eat within the 8-hour window because they were doing that for health reasons. They probably got forced into it because of their own other life situations, such as with business and stress, or would we even think they didn't even have the food to eat, the right foods to eat for those 8 hours that they ate, and also the stress level that may also have contributed in their own lives, potentially canceling any benefit of eating only for 8 hours in the day. For example, if you eat for 8 hours in the day and yet you drink a lot of alcohol or you smoke a lot, eating 8 hours a day would not be beneficial for you. And with that, let's look at this table that I have. So on this table that you can see on my screen, I'm comparing the first column, which is 8-hour eating window, with people who are eating 12 to 16 hours a day. In other words, the 8-hour window people are people doing intermittent fasting, and the 12 to 16 hours are people who are eating throughout the day. And this is what I have gleaned in terms of just the real common sense, knowledge out there that should still support people who are doing intermittent fasting. Okay, the first line item I put is that people who are doing intermittent fasting, overall, they are eating less. And if you eat less, then most likely All things being equal, if you're not eating like you are eating 3 square meals in one meal just because you're going to be eating for 8 hours or a shorter period, you're not adding everything in to eat extra, then potentially you are eating less overall in a day, right? And if you eat less in the day, then obviously you are going to take in less calories. If you're taking in less calories, then suffice to say that you're also going to have less fat. And if you don't have a lot of fat, then you are going to use the fat that you have stored. So you do burn fat more. So that's what I mean by fat oxidation. And that would in turn lead to weight loss. So if you are eating less or you have a lesser window of eating daily, you are taking in less, and because you're taking in less, you give your body the chance to burn the fat that you have stored, and that would lead to less weight overall. So that is something that I'm not bringing up. That is known out there. You can try it. There's no argument. You look at a war-torn place where there is hunger and starvation, you see how people are skinny there. They are not eating. So, no argument. If you eat less, you gain less weight. Basically, that is what that means. That is. You don't need science to prove that. Okay, when you go to the right, if you eat more, that is, if you are eating continuously 12 to 16 hours in a day, then you are potentially going to take in more calories. If you are taking in more calories, then you're potentially going to take in more, gain more weight. And if you gain more weight, you are eventually going to be obese. So your chances of increasing, diseases in this area is high. Now you can say that what if they are eating smaller amounts within those 12 to 16 hours? You could potentially say that, but that does not compare to somebody who is looking out for their health and eating lesser amount within a lesser window. You cannot compare, because overall, if you are eating a longer period, it's going to add up even if you are eating less with the snacks and everything in between. You're going to be adding more than the person who is eating within a shorter window. So that fact is established. So that's fact number one. That means that study, or it's not study, that particular observation on American Heart Association website should be thrown out. The second thing is that, well, I'll come to the last thing before I actually say that, because this alone may not make sense. The second thing is that if you are also eating within a lesser window or within a shorter period in the day, what we call intermittent fasting, then you are going to have less insulin release. Now, anytime you eat, you are giving your body the chance to release insulin, and insulin comes out just so that whatever carbohydrates and energy you have taken, is going to be picked up into your cells. So anytime you eat, insulin is released. So for somebody who is eating within a shorter period or within an 8-hour period, they are going to have lesser incidence of insulin release compared to somebody who is eating within 12 to 16-hour period. I mean, you don't need science, because we all know, everybody knows that if you eat, you release insulin. And so if you're eating longer, you're going to be releasing insulin longer or for a longer period. So that is also established. And what does insulin release lead to? If you release so much insulin, then you are going to eventually have insulin insensitivity. In other words, if you release it over several hours in the day, continuously for months or for days or for weeks or however long your body takes to recognize that, then your body is going to eventually look at the insulin and say that there's too much of this, there's no need for this, and then the insulin is insensitive, or your body is insensitive to insulin. So that is one. Compared to that person who eats within the lesser window, their insulin is going to be more effective, because again, the insulin is not released over longer periods, like 8 to 16 hours a day. It is just within the shorter period that they eat. So that fact is also established right there. Now, what does insulin insensitivity or insulin resistance lead to? If you are releasing insulin all the time, you are releasing insulin all the time, then we can say that you are going to potentially become diabetic, type 2 diabetes for that matter. So if you're insulin resistant because you are eating for longer periods in the day, the chances of you developing type 2 diabetes is bigger or greater than somebody who is eating within a shorter period and releasing insulin for a shorter period, because they may not be insensitive. They will become very sensitive. At least comparatively, they stand the chance of having less diabetes, less type 2 diabetes than a person who is eating around the clock. So, and that is a fact that is not yet to be proven. It is true that if you eat more often, you release insulin more. And if insulin is continuously released every day, every night, you are going to be resistant. And resistant to insulin basically means type 2 diabetes. Now, tell me, if somebody has type 2 diabetes and somebody doesn't have type 2 diabetes, who is more likely going to develop heart disease or heart attack, which was the outcome that they measured, or death, which was the outcome which they measured in that observation in the AHA's site. So I definitely am not buying it, and I'm pretty sure by now you are not buying it. So let's move on again. So the next thing is that a person who eats less or who has a lesser window of eating is going to have less weight around the waist. Now, we also know, or it's been a proven fact, that if you build up weight around the waist, your waist circumference, you are going to have several other disease risks. It's basically a disorder of your metabolic system, right? And so packing the weight around the waist is associated with all these things that we know: high blood pressure, diabetes, a host of other things. And so, just to be sure, the reason is if you are eating within a lesser window in the day, because you're not gaining more insulin, because you're not releasing more insulin, you're not going to pack up more weight around the waist. It's known that continuous insulin release is associated with weight gain, especially around the midsection of your body. And so if you are not eating longer in the day or in the days, you are eating only short periods in the day, which is intermittent fasting, by the way, then you have less chance to pack up the weight because you are releasing less insulin. Simple as that. Similarly, or on the other hand, I should say, if you are eating for a longer period within a long window in the day, you are not fasting at all. You just eat right from the time you wake up to right to the time you go to bed. You have a longer period of eating. You release more insulin, and that insulin is going to lead to packing more weight around your midsection. And that also is responsible for leading to heart diseases. And so how can they tell us that the people who are doing intermittent fasting were dying more out of heart disease? I don't buy that, and I'm pretty sure you don't buy it right now. All right, so the next point is that if you are eating less within the day, or if you are practicing intermittent fasting, you have less oxidative stress. And less oxidative stress literally just means that you don't have inflammation. And if you don't have inflammation, then you're going to have good arterial health. Your pipes are going to be cleaner compared to that person who is eating more during the days or who has a longer period of eating. They are going to have a lot more of inflammation. They are going to have a lot more of oxidative stress leading to inflammation, which basically would lead to atherosclerosis, the thickening of your arteries due to plaque formation. That is going to result as a result of eating so much and over longer periods in the day, over months and years. And that is also something that we know. And that will eventually lead to higher blood pressures, atherosclerosis, as I mentioned, leading to strokes and heart diseases, which are all stuff that happen to people who we already know don't have, who eat longer and more. And so I don't buy that observation on the AH's site. So that is another thing that is out there. And as a matter of fact, those people are also more likely to develop certain cancers, apart from heart diseases, and the rest, they are also more likely to develop certain cancers. They're also more likely to have heart attacks. They're also more likely to have high blood pressure because of the oxidative stress coming from, again, the insulin release that we have already established, because you're eating more during the day, and the obesity that's also going to be resulting from that. And this is a multifaceted thing that is going to make sure that you end up being more risky in terms of having more cardiovascular events. And so I don't know what they looked at, but there's no way this is going to be accepted anywhere. So more studies will have to come up to disprove whatever the AHA is posting on their side. And the other thing, before we conclude, is that if you eat within a shorter period in the day, which is basically intermittent fasting, you have better lipid profile. In other words, your cholesterol levels are going to be better off than the person who eats throughout the day. And the reasons are already established, as I've already said. Of course, I've already established the oxidative stress is less, inflammation is less, because if inflammation is less, then you don't have a lot going on in your arteries to lead to all those LDL plaque formation in your veins and your arteries and all of that. So that's established. The only thing is that if you are doing intermittent fasting, but you have a gene that causes you to still make a lot of cholesterol, then regardless of not eating continuously throughout the day, you will still produce your excess cholesterol, or you still have your dyslipidemia. Your cholesterol levels will be all over the place because you have a specific gene for that. But all things being equal, comparing to apples to apples, persons without that gene, eating less or being in a shorter window of eating daily is definitely going to be associated with less lipidemia or less cholesterol issues. So that is another one. Then, and of course, if you eat longer, your cholesterol issues will be all over the place. Your cholesterol numbers will be all over the place. You're going to have higher LDL levels, and you can say that, well, you're eating throughout the day, but you're eating the healthier foods. You're eating, your oils are the natural oils from avocados and nuts and seeds, and you're not really doing animal fat and stuff. Yes, but if you're eating more within that longer period, 12 to 16 hours a day, you are going to accumulate excess, and excess will eventually still lead to worse outcomes. And so you can win either way. So that's what I'm saying. And then the next point, which I think we should also look at, is that overall we have established the fact that people who have intermittent fasting live longer. It's already established, but this study seems to poke a hole in that notion because they're saying that it's not true. Well, of all the points that I've established so far, every one of them favors better health outcomes if it comes to weight management, comes to insulin management or insulin levels, or diabetes development or diabetes management, if it comes to your heart and arterial health, if it comes to even certain cancers, if it comes to dyslipidemia or cholesterol levels, everything favors the person who has a shorter window of eating during the day, right? And so it makes sense that that person will have a longer life, all things being equal. And so how can just one outcome be measured and say that they have more heart disease, especially when these metabolic diseases are the ones that are directly related to your diet? And so that is where I am coming from in this this post that they had on there, which is trending. Everybody's talking about it, and I'm pretty sure that some of my viewers or our viewers may be thinking that, hey, you guys are talking about intermittent fasting now. They're saying that it's not good. No, it is good. Keep doing it. Trust me. Do not listen to anything, but keep doing your intermittent fasting because it's definitely still very beneficial. And if I know that there are certain benefits to people who eat within the longer periods, especially if you have type 1 diabetes and you have to eat 12 to 16 hours in the day. It makes sense because you don't want your sugars to be going up and down you need your sugars to be level throughout the day because you depend mostly on your insulin, on your carbohydrates for your strength. They don't usually have a lot of adipose tissue to convert to energy. So if you're type 1 diabetic and you can't do insulin, intermittent fasting, it makes sense. Or for other people like athletes who need serious energy use, they are burning calories like crazy. Those people may need to be eating around the clock. That makes sense because they are burning it. you know which I don't know if there's any other group of people or anybody who has been put on a diet restriction for any reason by their doctors. Of course, you may be told that you got to eat during the day throughout with snacks in between here and there because for you, that is what they have determined will work for you. But for the most of us, intermittent fasting cannot be disproved by an observation which is not peer reviewed, which is not critiqued by, and the sad thing is to have it posted by an organization which is supposed to be the gateway to certain things. When the American Heart Association says something, you want to take it to the bank, but this time we ain't taking that to the bank. They should have waited and had other people review the study, or even wait until other studies are done to ascertain the validity of this outcome that these people are saying before making noise with it. It's so sad that they have dropped their reputation with this so much, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be disproved with subsequent studies. And so hold your horses if you are doing intermittent fasting. Keep doing it. And if you are not sure, as a matter of fact, with the foregoing arguments that I've given you, you got to keep doing it. I'm pretty sure that your heart is going to be safer. You're not going to die premature because of intermittent fasting or because you eat less during the day. That is not something that's going to happen. And so thank you for watching. Share the video if you found value, and keep the conversation going. If you have any questions or anything you want me to touch on related to intermittent fasting, diabetes, heart disease, and especially also to this study, let me know and we can talk about it. But again, thanks for watching. God bless.